Hey everybody, it's Eric Dorward with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and today we are going to finish our Vesta Intruder build. Now, I have painted it mostly. There are basically two little things to do. There's also going to be dealing with the parachute and the shock cord, but I'm not going to include them because there are lots of videos of me doing that. But what we do need to do is one is I've started masking off the nose cone because these bulb areas need to be painted black, but we'll get back to that shortly. The other thing we need to do is we need to place decals. Now, there are decals on the nose, but obviously that's not done yet. But the bottom of the rocket, on the other hand, it is done. It is decent, not great, but decent, and it is ready for decals. So just a word of caution. So this thing is painted gray. There are a couple runs in the paint that unfortunately happened here. When you do this section, it's got so many nooks and crannies and valleys and ridges and things that even if you do a decent job and go very light on the paint, it is possible that you'll get runs. So be aware of that and go even lighter than you think you need to, because yeah, that'll happen. Now, anyway, decals. I have done some of the work to cut the decals out of the sheet. I've used a pair of scissors because I find that to be easier. However, there are some pieces that we're going to have to do with a knife. At least I'm going to want to do with a knife because they're pretty hard to do otherwise with a big pair of scissors. Like this part right here, this white rectangle needs to be cut out because this is going to go around a fin essentially. Most of the time, I feel like I'm better with the scissors than with a knife. But for this, it's pretty fine detail work. So the scissors aren't really going to cut it. Ha, I did not intend that to be a pun. Sorry, that was pretty bad. Anyway, so I'm just going to try to cut this rectangle out without doing any appreciable damage to the surrounding environment. And there it goes. It's out. So that gets junked. The other one, since I'm working on it, this is a rounded bit that's going to go on the nose cone. Part of it, most of it I've already trimmed out, just like the other one, but this part, since it's round, yeah, this has to be cut out, or otherwise the decal won't lay right. And I don't, it's too small. The notch in here is too small for me to want to do with scissors. Cutting rounded corners with a hobby knife isn't the easiest thing you could be doing either, but that seemed to work pretty well. I don't think didn't mess it up. So in any event, I like to keep the unused decals on the piece of kind of waxy paper that they give you. Some of these, like this and this, they all go on the nose cone, so I'm not going to use them. But the other ones, they go on the bottom, so here. The question is where? Well, to do that, the instructions kind of show you what to do. The instructions are in black and white, and that's not super useful, to be honest. The only thing that I can clearly see here is that this one right here, one that I just trimmed, goes around one of the fins, and it looks like, so this is the under view, this is the bottom. So that means this is going to go around this fin right here. It's been a while, perhaps, since we've done a waterslide decal. I have a little custard cup here. It is full of pretty hot water. Not as hot as it could be. Anyway, in this goes. It's usually going to curl up. That's fine. We're going to let it sit in there because waterslide decals, remember, they're not actually, I mean, they have, the decals are very nice. I like them, personally. I find them easier to work with than stickers. They don't have an adhesive to worry about. I mean, they are stuck to the blue paper, but mostly what we're going to be doing is removing that adhesive with the warm water and then transferring the decal onto the rocket and then letting it dry. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to try to get these as far out of the way as possible. The other thing you should have when doing this is a paper towel to blot the water. These don't require all that long. And you really don't want to let them stay in there too long either. They should be, there we go. See, notice how it's just sliding. It is resisting me, but not a lot. Okay, so this one goes around here. I'm going to try to hold the back of it and then kind of pull the blue paper. And that should get it. It's not going to be perfect, obviously, but it should be at least good enough for us to start. Now, the good news is that because this is a water slide decal, you can slide it when it's still wet without any real trouble and line it up to exactly where you want it to be. So I'm just trying to get it kind of centered around that fin and even at the back. You, of course, also want to try to make sure you get any little folds or bubbles or anything out of it. Now, once you're ready to go, I'm going to put my finger back here. So I'm anchoring this, and then I'm going to smooth out any little folds or anything. And simultaneously, I'm going to be kind of drying up the obvious drips of water. Okay. It looks like it's pretty good. There are a couple little spots here I see that aren't quite laying flat just yet, so I'm going to smooth over them and make sure that the back where I had my finger is nice and smooth as well, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so that's one of them. Now the question is where the others go. Well, I can see that one of the Estes decals goes basically in between the launch lug, so that's fine. I know where to place that. The other one is just kind of like a question mark. I don't know. So that's why we have the box art, I guess. So here's the box, and I had to look at this carefully. The box is at least in color. It looks like, let's move this a little bit. There's the one I don't know where it goes is this guy right here, and it looks like it goes. I think it's this. So it's going to go into the slot, the next slot over, basically, from the one we just did. Sometimes the decal, the diagrams of the decals in the instructions are pretty good, and sometimes they're not. This one in particular is very hard to use because the whole rocket is a dark color to begin with. The decals are dark colors, and yeah, it makes it pretty hard to see. You might also be able to see the worst of the runs right here. And it's not horrific, but it could be better. All right, again, I'm going to make reference to the box to make sure that I'm putting this in the right spot. Yeah, I mean, basically it's just going to lie right there. Kind of, whoops, I left the nose going. Oh well. And I don't really know. It seems it doesn't really matter which way I put it, one way or the other. I'll put it this way. Again, you'll know it's ready to take out of there when you can slide it, but you still get some resistance from the paper. If you get no resistance from the paper, it's actually kind of hard to deal with because it'll be sliding all over the place. It's like it's too wet. And then even placing it can be problematic. I'm going to have a look at this. It looks like in the picture that the decal goes the whole way back and is also kind of in line with the front end of the other one that we already placed. So I can't really do both of those things. So I'm going to slide it up a little bit, look like that. Now, obviously, it's your kit, right? So you can build it however you want. But I do want mine to match about as well as I can get it to match. So that's pretty good. The only other thing that goes on this is going to be the Estes logo, which is an Alienese, I guess. So we'll dump that one in there. The other pieces, there is a regular Estes decal, but I don't see that anywhere on diagram or on the box art. So, I mean, you can put it on there wherever you want. Sometimes they like to go on the fins. We could probably find a place for it on the fins. I think I'm just going to be happy with the one logo. I mean, also, if you don't really want to be advertising whose rocket this is, what company built it, then don't put it on at all. Who cares? Again, it's your rocket. You do with it as you please. So I'm going to put it right about here. That's probably enough time. If I were placing any more decals at this point, I would be refreshing the water because my water is not warm anymore. And this whole process works better with warm water rather than cold. It worked just fine on that last one. But I suspect it would be troublesome for any more than that. Okay. I don't want to leave any drips of water on this rocket if I can help it. I don't see any. So that's good for now. In fact, that's it. That's all the decals that are going to go on this. So this part is essentially done. It does need to have the shock cord mounted in it, but I'm not going to do that right now. The next part is to deal with the nose cone, so the water can go away. Now, I've already started on this because, well, frankly, there's a decent amount of work to do. This bulb right here, and these kind of look like eyes, I think. They're both supposed to be painted black. Now, I considered hand painting this, and there are definitely kits where I have brush painted the decal or the detail work if it's small. But this is pretty big amount of space. And I'm not the world's best painter one way or the other, with spray paint or with a brush. I think this is probably going to be easier, maybe more time consuming, but easier to do with spray paint. I think it'll look nicer too. So I've already started, you can see here, putting tape around the parts that I'm going to spray paint. So typically I use this tape. This tape is it feels like duct tape. It's plasticky, and it gives the best lines. So I really like this stuff, but it's too wide. And the other problem is it doesn't tear because it's plasticky. All right. I'm going to use this stuff, which is, whoops, rocket collapse there. There we go. Anyway, this stuff is just sharp lines. It still feels like masking tape. It's a little waxy. It's nicer than this stuff. This stuff is, I don't use it for painting, ironically. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mask off almost the entire rocket. Probably I will eventually mask off the entire rocket with tape. Maybe not with this stuff though. So I'm going to try to do as many of the straight faces as I can with this stuff. And I'm just going to tear it because it tears. That's one of the reasons I'm using this. But here's the thing. These eyes and this bulge here, they're all curved. And the tape is not curved, obviously. So you're going to have to tear off a bunch of pieces of tape in order to line this and mask it properly. So basically, this was almost a straight line. So this is the biggest probably piece of tape I'm going to get to use. Everything else, though, I'm going to use increasingly small bits of tape to just cover up the edges. And the harder the curve, the more pieces of tape you're going to need because the angles are going to be changing faster and faster. So on goes, I'm going to do the biggest pieces first. The other thing too is I have to tear this off up here one way or the other because this part's fairly narrow, and as it stands, that's about as close as I'd want to get anyway. Certainly wouldn't want to mask over something I'm going to be painting anyway. That would be kind of foolish. So in any event, masking. This is a fairly time-consuming process, and one thing you need to be very careful of is the masking tape only masks if you have it very, very snug up against the rocket body. So if you don't have it, if you're not sealing it like this, if you're not pushing down each time, you might be leaving a little seam. Oops, that was too much, apparently. You might be leaving a little seam, and if you leave a little seam, the spray paint can and absolutely will get in there. And you probably don't want that, because if that happens, you're going to get like nasty looking kind of little feet of black paint into the gray body. Honestly, I mean, this one isn't going to be so bad because gray and black are pretty close together. But if you have a white rocket body and you're painting with like red or some other bright color, it's going to be pretty noticeable. All right, so there's the front. Again, making sure it's smoothed out. The back here is very rounded, so it's going to take a few pieces of tape in order to properly mask it off. So tighter, the quicker the angle changes, the more pieces you need. And that's okay. This is one of those places where investing the time here is going to make a nicer looking product. And yeah, if you are decent at hand brushing, you go right ahead if you have the right materials. Whenever I hand brush, though, I'm not as steady as perhaps I could be in brushing things. So I do tend to paint where I'm not supposed to. And the other issue, too, is I usually can't get rid of all the brush strokes. Try as I might. All right, so I'm going to do one more of these eye-looking things, and then probably call it, because you don't need to see me putting tape on over and over and over again. So I just tore the tape there a little bit, and it crinkled up, so I don't want to use this side as an edge, which is fine, because tape has another side. I'll use that side as the edge that I care about. So when you tear it, try to tear it cleanly. All the more reason that I'm using this stuff instead of the nice ultra sharp line tape. Let's do that up a little bit. So in the end, I will probably end up masking the entire rocket with almost the entire rocket with this stuff, just because of the way the nose cone is shaped. I mean, you can see I've done a lot. Pretty much the front end of the nose cone is all going to be masked off. And if there are a couple little spots that I don't cover with the tape in just making the rounded edges, I'll just put a piece of tape there, because it's probably easier than doing anything else. The back end of it, I suspect, is going to be a little less covered. So I'll probably break out the big tape and just kind of like put a ring around here. Yeah. That looks pretty good. I'm concerned here about, I can see there's a bubble in where the tape is not lying flat. I really have to smooth that out because it's right around the edge, or going from one side to the other, so that could be a problem. Before I paint this, like when I take it down to paint it, I'm going to make sure all of these edges, I'm going to smooth them all out with my finger again to make sure that it hasn't like unpeeled itself in the intervening time, which is a distinct possibility. Like this I did maybe 20 minutes ago and it's already starting to peel off. So that definitely needs to be pushed back down as smooth as possible, because the tape will not give you a good clean edge if it's not lying flat. So. All right, just about done taping anyway. The bulk of the work then at the end, like the big pieces of tape that I was talking about. I'm not going to do that on camera. There's no reason for that. But finishing up this detail work here seems like something I can do. That's worthwhile. It's worth seeing. Okay, just about done. One more good piece. Might have to tear it a couple times, but in fact, definitely will have to tear it a couple times. That's fine. Okay. All right, so just one word of warning, because we're using essentially rectangles on a three-dimensional round surface, you're going to get kind of, there's an angle here that's not a round smooth space. You're just going to have to deal with that. This is kind of my feeling on the matter if you're going to tape things off like this. And I'm okay with that because I'd rather have a couple slightly angular spots than have ugly looking, hand painted brush marks, which, that'll happen to me anyway. Maybe not to you. Maybe you're better at it. Or a bunch of feet, like spray painted glue, or spray painted black feet kind of seeping in here. It's a trade off, and I'm willing to make it. All right, so the eyes are nicely covered. This bump and this bump are nicely covered. There's a little bulge there. Might as well cover up with this tape here, like so. All this stuff's going to get peeled off at the end too, by the way, after I paint it. That'll be a production. It'll take like 5 minutes to get all the tape off. That's okay. Better safe than sorry. All right, so this bit and around here, these two edges, the back end, and the white part here that goes inside the rocket, I want to protect that too. They're all going to get covered with the other tape, the ultra fine corners tape. So this is basically ready to paint at this point. That's going to wrap up this particular rocket video series because, well, I mean, I guess I could do one more. I could do one more and put in this stuff. That'd be fine. You can see what this looks like. So maybe we will do one more, but it's not going to have a lot in it. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time, apparently, in the final video. See you then.